Welcome to the Woodridge Audio Project. I'm David, or Dave if you prefer, from audioprojectcentral.com, and I'm hosting the Woodridge Audio Project. This episode of the Woodridge Audio Project is part of the uplifting, informative, and, I'm sure you will agree, inspirational series of character profiles of different people at the school. Please share the episodes with your friends and your family via your social media or in whatever ways you can think of, even if that means emailing a link to someone. You can find out more about Woodridge or contact a member of the team by visiting www.woodridge.co.za. The guest for this episode is Mr. Tal Leshem, who teaches science and maths at the college, and he begins the interview by talking about his fascinating background.
Actually, I was born in Israel. I grew up in Israel. When I was 22 or so, I left and I went on a gap year because we have to do the army first. So our gap year comes after the army. And the gap year didn't really end, 25 years, 23 years down the line, I'm still in this gap year. I lived in many countries. I lived in Europe for a while, then North America, in UK, Seychelles. And during that time, I always loved physics. Physics is really my kind of passion. I studied physics through Open University. And at some point I said, okay, now we need to settle a little bit more. So I did a teaching degree in the UK, PGCE. I met my wife in Italy, actually, but she's a South African. And she's also a traveler like me. So we couldn't stay too long in the UK. Eventually we went to India for a while, then back, and then Seychelles. We lived in Seychelles for a few years. Back to the UK, and then 5 years ago we came to South Africa to help her father. He's got a small organic farm not far from here near J-Bay. The idea was, okay, I'm going to leave the teaching, get into farming, but then I realized that I can't give up completely teaching because money-wise it's kind of a necessity. But as soon as I got a very part-time job here, like just 2 days a week, and I thought, okay, that will just plug that financial gap. But then as soon as I went back to school, I realized, no, my place is at school. I love school, and mainly Woodridge. I mean, Woodridge is a very special place for many people. For my side, why it's so special is that I don't know why exactly. I've been thinking why, but for some reason, all the stuff that I'm into, and I'm into a lot of things, Tai Chi, Capoeira, gardening, rock, so many things, but somehow everything comes together in Woodridge. Like, I've got so many things that I can do here, and I can't imagine being able to do these things in other schools.
Is there anything that none of your colleagues would know about you that you're happy to tell me?
Yeah, I think if one thing I can say is maybe some of the kids know, I don't think the colleagues know. I was a camel rider. I used to ride camels for a living. When I was still in Israel, I worked in this place in the desert, and tourists would come and I would take them on these 4 days hikes on camels. So I used to ride on them, being like a Bedouin, like a desert nomad person, cooking things and then just operating the camel.
Did you experience or learn anything during that time that may have influenced your decisions thereafter towards traveling and then teaching?
Many things. If one thing that comes to my mind is spending some time with the Bedouins and with camels, is that I've learned that patience is really important because time just runs differently there. And I think in a way that prepared me to come to Africa. There's the time frame is different there. Growing up in kind of European culture, time is always have to push, and you got to finish this, got to finish that. But I've learned a lot of patience and just being in the now. And working with camels, I also learned that camels are beautiful animals, very graceful, very powerful, very easygoing as well. But if they don't want to do something, they won't do it. You can't bully them like you might. I don't know about horses, but I think other animals, you can kind of bully them. If they don't want to do something, they won't do it. I've learned that you can try and have your way and push, but you always have to think, hang on, is it, maybe it doesn't work, and she never really force herself on a situation. Think about it. It might make sense to you. It might be the thing that needs to happen, but you don't know everything,
I'm sure that's really relevant in so many different life situations, classrooms especially.
Absolutely.
I have a specific question about classroom environments. I was one of those students, pupils who ducked and dived out of maths and science classes as much as possible. I gravitated towards English, literature, language, and I later pursued philosophy. What would you say to someone like me? What do you say to someone like me, a student or pupil like me who's trying to get out there? They're not that interested.
Yeah.
How do you get their buy-in?
When it comes to maths, everyone can study it. That's kind of my thought. Everyone can study it. But you need three things. You first of all need to have a will. You need to want to do it. And that's maybe the hardest thing. If you don't have a will to do it, then it's very difficult to do it. So how do you learn to get a will? That's another story. But the second thing, you need to have patience, because progress is not going to come straight away. So you got to stick with it. And the third thing, you need to have a good teacher. You really need to have a good teacher, because especially when it comes to maths, it's hard. It's actually heartbreaking, because there is this emotional thing with maths. And, I can see students who maybe had a not good teacher in grade 3 or grade 5. And it created such an emotional scar that it's so difficult to get over. What can I tell these kids is, I'm hoping you can find a teacher that will be able to heal that scar. So I hope you find that teacher. But do what you can do. Never give up. It might not be your thing, but it is something that, I do believe that up to the age of, let's say, 14, 15, when they decide whether they're doing maths or maths, okay, up to the age of 14, 15, it's a good thing to go through, even if it's a struggle. I tell some of the students, even if it's a struggle, that is part of life. That is part of life. It might not be your thing. You might never use it ever again, but if you went through that struggle, you learn certain things, just like you will learn in the rugby team. Even if you were in the C team, you will learn certain things. You don't have to excel at things. It's about the process, the journey, not the end result. It's not about that.
Is there anything else that you'd like to mention about your role, and also how the Woodridge context enables that?
The best thing in my role, it's not the best, there's many, but one thing that came first is that I laugh all the time. Because listen, our kids are funny. Kids it's just funny. You just laugh. And I don't know if I worked in an office environment, I don't know if I would laugh as much. I don't think adults are as funny. We're a bit more polished in our behavior. Where kids are a little bit more raw. The things that come up in the classroom, I don't think adults are aware of them, Just funny situations. So I just find myself at least once a day really have a good laugh. That's like the lighthearted one, but it is a big thing, to be able to laugh throughout the day, to be happy is so important. Now we're going through this world epidemic, and I don't know if enough conversation, especially in the rich countries. I think here in South Africa, I think we're more aware of how the well-being is important, but I see my friends and family in the rich countries, they don't realize how laughing is so important. And that's one of the things that South Africa can teach the rest of the world, for sure. You look at the people here, they might not have the same amount of wealth as European counterparts, but everyone is just smiling and laughing here all the time. And I think that is one of the things that keeps us healthy. That's why we're not as badly hit as maybe some other rich countries. I'm 100% sure about that. So yeah, that's one thing. But the other thing is that you probably got from what I said before is that fact that you have such an impact on people's lives. A teacher has a real impact. It actually is scary. I think a teacher who is aware of what an impact he has on a child's life should be a bit scared, because everything you do can affect. And we all do mistakes. I mean, I'm doing mistakes as well. At the same time, that responsibility is very fulfilling, obviously. When you get it right, it's fantastic.
And that brings us to the end of the interview. Thanks for listening, and please do remember to share the episodes and relevant social media posts with your friends and family, and like the episodes at whichever social media platform you found them on. If you have any follow-up questions, head over to www.woodridge.co.za, where you will find the contact details for the school, and you can contact me at www.audioprojectcentral.com.